Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of Uncovering Your Inner Power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about friendship. The trajectory of this conversation may seem a little strange at first, but I ask that you hear me out, and perhaps you will walk away with a new perspective on the world around you. Have you ever thought about what it actually means to call someone or something a friend? We use the word so casually. We have childhood friends, work friends, best friends, old friends, new friends. And if you're an animal lover, chances are you've probably referred to them as one of your closest friends too. But what about the relationships that don't fit quite so neatly into our traditional definition of a friendship? Can we feel friendship with a place? With a tree? With the birds that visit our yard each morning? With the forest we walk through over and over again? I've been thinking about how much bigger the idea of friendship might actually be. And what began as a simple moment of gratitude with my cat sitting on my lap led me into a much deeper contemplation about love, connection, nature, and perhaps even our relationship with life itself. The definition of the word friend is a person you know well, like, and trust. This bond involves mutual care, loyalty, support, and it's usually separate from family or romantic ties. Recently, as I was sitting in my morning contemplation, my cat was sitting on my lap, just happily purring along. I felt such a deep joy at the sound of his contentment, and I told him I was so grateful he's my special friend. As the words came out of my mouth, I felt the desire to explore the deeper meaning of the word friend. So, upon looking it up, I found that the English word for friend comes from the Old English word friend, which means the loving one or lover. What struck me is that the idea of a friend becomes much richer when you stop limiting friendship to human relationships. From my perspective, a friend is any place you feel so inclined to share or place your love. What if friendship isn't defined by a conversation? What if friendship is defined by relationship? A cat or dog can be your friend because there's mutual trust and affection. A horse can be your friend because there's recognition. But why couldn't an old oak tree be your friend if every time you visit you feel seen, grounded, comforted, and welcomed? Most indigenous traditions wouldn't find that idea strange at all. They tend to view the natural world as a community of living beings rather than a collection of objects. Trees, rivers, mountains, birds, and even stones are regarded as relatives or companions rather than resources. They don't necessarily attribute human personalities to them, but they recognize that humans exist within a web of reciprocal relationships. From a spiritual perspective, friendship may simply be love expressed through connection. That connection doesn't necessarily require words. Think about the people in your life. Some of your deepest friendships probably include long stretches of silence where nothing needs to be said. You're simply happy to be in each other's presence. Nature offers that same kind of companionship. You sit beside a stream and it asks nothing of you. You lean against a tree, and it doesn't judge you. A bird lands nearby, unaware that it's offering you a moment of wonder. The wind touches your face exactly the same way it touches every other living thing. Perhaps friendship isn't something we create. Perhaps friendship is something we recognize. When we stop seeing ourselves as separate from life and others, the world begins to feel populated with companions. I also think there's a beautiful distinction between ownership and belonging. We often say, my dog, my friend, my family, but perhaps spiritually, it's more accurate to say we belong with one another. We belong with the trees, the birds, the deer, the mushrooms beneath the forest floor, the insects pollinating flowers, even the unseen organisms enriching the soil. The forest isn't simply a place we visit. It's a community we're blessed to be able to enter. And when you return to the same trail over and over, noticing the same trees through the changing seasons, listening to the same birds, watching the brook rise after a rain or slowing during a drought, relationships naturally begin to form. Not because the tree suddenly becomes your friend, but because your awareness awakened to a friendship that was always available. That also changes how we see other people. If every living being shares the same source, whether we call that God, spirit, divine consciousness, or simply life itself, then friendship becomes an expression of recognizing that shared essence. Maybe that's what love really is. Not an emotion that comes and goes, but the recognition that what lives in me also lives in you. And perhaps that's why being in nature feels so restorative. For a little while, we stop trying to prove ourselves, achieve something, or become someone else. We simply return to the company of old friends who have never forgotten that we belong. And maybe we can begin to carry that awareness beyond the forest. Because when we start recognizing connection in places we may have previously overlooked, perhaps we also begin moving through the world a little differently. We might become more attentive to the animals that cross our path. We might notice the trees that we've driven past hundreds of times. We might feel gratitude for the flowers growing beside the road, or pause long enough to appreciate the sound of the birds outside our window. And perhaps we begin noticing people differently too. The stranger who holds the door for us, the person we see every morning at the coffee shop, the neighbor who waves when we drive by. People who may never become friends in the traditional sense, but with whom we share these tiny moments of connection. Maybe there are different depths of friendship, different expressions of it, but the common thread running through all of them is love. And I don't necessarily mean love in some grand or sentimental way. Sometimes love is simply attention. It's noticing. It's appreciating. It's recognizing the presence of another living being and allowing yourself, even briefly, to feel connected to it. Perhaps that's one of the invitations of friendship, to remind us that we were never meant to experience this life entirely on our own. And the more willing we become to recognize our connection with the life around us, the more expansive our world becomes. Suddenly, we simply aren't walking through a forest, we're walking among friends. So maybe the next time you use the word friend, allow yourself to think about it a little differently. Remember its roots, the loving one, and consider where the loving one exists in your own life. Certainly, they may be the people who know your stories, celebrate your joys, sit beside you through your struggles, and love you through all the different versions of yourself. But maybe they're also curled up on your lap. Maybe they're waiting excitedly for you at the door. Maybe they're singing outside your window. Maybe they're quietly standing along the trail you've walked 100 times. And maybe friendship, at its deepest level, is simply one of the many ways that love reminds us that we are connected. So this week, I invite you to notice your friends, the obvious ones, and perhaps some you've never thought to call friends before. And if this episode gave you something new to contemplate, I'd love for you to like it, subscribe to the show, and share it with someone you consider a friend. And if you'd like more conversations like this, along with inspiration and encouragement for your own journey, you can join my newsletter through the link in the show notes. Until next time, my friend, keep listening to your inner wisdom, keep noticing the love around you, and remember, you are worthy of all the love and connection this amazing universe has to offer.